Hey guys, we're going to do the chapter 4. That just flipped around, didn't it? The chapter 4 lecture on biodiversity and evolution. I'm going to split it into two parts. So if you could grab your reading guide, we can get started. So first of all, we need to talk about what actually biodiversity is. Okay, so if you think about bio means life, and diversity means variety. So you're literally talking about variety of life, or the variety in the Earth's species. So we need to define what a species is then. Okay, so we answered number 1. You can cross out the second part of number 1 that says, why is it important? Now let's answer number 2, asking about the 4 parts of a biological species. So in order to be considered a species, you need to be able to do 4 things. You need to be able, first of all, working on it. Let's try it again. You need to be able to mate. Number 1, you need to be able to mate. So actually, like, the parts fit. A mating attempt, sexual intercourse, whatever you want to say. That needs to be able to happen in nature. So not in a zoo, not in some sort of captivity. You need to be able to make offspring that live. So viable means live. And then offspring that can reproduce. Okay. So we need to be able to mate in nature and produce viable, fertile offspring. If that doesn't happen, you cannot be considered a species. So for example, a mule is a result of the mating of a donkey and a horse. A mule is not its own separate species. So then species diversity, moving on to number 3, is kind of what we've defined biodiversity as up until now. So you're talking about the number and variety of species in an area. When you're looking at examples with high species diversity, you can think tropical rainforest, you can think coral reef, estuaries. Okay. Compare that to genetic diversity. Genetic diversity is going to be unique because we're talking about within a species. I'll get used to this pen at some point. I promise. Okay, remember, a population is a group of individuals of the same species living in the same place at the same time. So when you talk genetic diversity, you're talking about within a population in the same species. Think about something like humans or dogs, especially dogs. Dogs are a singular species, but look at the visual variety of dogs that you see. There's a whole lot of it. And then finally, not finally at all, finally on this slide, ecosystem diversity. You're just looking at the biomes that are available, the variety of biomes. For examples, you can just write some biomes that you know: desert, tundra, rainforest, deciduous forest, taiga, cold desert, whatever comes to your mind, okay? Functional diversity then relates to processes, relates to biochemistry, photosynthesis, respiration, chemosynthesis. Think about those nutrient cycles you did your FRQ on. Decomposition. Okay, you're looking at those processes that are going to support life. And then finally, cultural diversity. We're looking at value just in human culture in and of itself. Okay, so the question is, like, why do we need biodiversity? Who cares? I would like you to add this under human cultural diversity. There are 3 reasons. 3 reasons. The first one is products and economy. Humans, economy. Humans are dependent on all this biodiversity for us. Like, we make stuff, we use stuff, we buy stuff, goods and services. Okay, so products and economy. The next one is balance. You can write next to that free recycling, water purification, pest control. If you have bats in your yard, which I know creeps out my kids, might creep out you, but that's mosquito control. We like the bats in our yard. Keeps the mosquitoes out. And then the third reason, we're going to say nature's insurance policy. If you know anything about the Irish potato famine, you know that in Ireland, a long time ago, oh, the struggle. Nope. A fungi attacked the potato crops, and because they had this singular crop that pretty much everybody planted, the farmers and then therefore the people who ate the farmer stuff were in big trouble because it wiped out everything. Biodiversity kind of prevents that. If one species gets wiped out, there are other things that can fill their niche, that can fill their spot on the food chain and so forth. Okay, good. So now we're number 4. Let's talk briefly fossils and fossil records. So what are fossils? We're talking about not bones, but the imprint, the physical evidence of ancient organisms. They tell us what structures look like. You go deeper, they get older. You go deeper, they get more simple. And so that fossil record helps reveal what those structures look like. It's all of our fossil evidence. It's uneven, it's incomplete. Some things don't leave fossils. Some things have decomposed. If you have a cartilage skeleton like a shark, you don't leave a fossil. And so while we have that as some evidence for evolution, that's only one piece. So let's talk evolution in general. Okay, so we're moving on to number 5. Evolution is very simply put the change in a population over time. We're not talking about an individual change, we're talking about a group. Let's say that we go on a trip to Alaska as our AP Enviro class, and we see these snowshoe hares, these bunnies, and half of them are white and half of them are brown, and we take some good data. We have 50-50 white and brown, and then we return back, and in 10 years we do a little reunion tour. We all get together again, we go back to Alaska. Well, as you may have guessed, the ones that are white, they blend in better, they're camouflaged, so they're gonna survive, which means they get to reproduce, and they're going to pass on their white furred genes to their babies. Whether it's dominant or recessive, over a long period of time, you're going to see a shift to a primarily white furred population because it's advantageous to be camouflaged. That, my friends, is evolution. Individuals do not evolve to answer that question. Populations evolve. How about some exclamation points? There you go. So the dude that was kind of in charge of that was Darwin. We don't need to really know a whole lot about Darwin, but he also discovered or said that natural selection is the driving force of this thing that we call evolution. No. Come on, Simek. There we go. You might have learned this as survival of the fittest, but that's leaving out this vital point that it's also reproduction that helps the species. And so we like to define it as differential reproductive success. That's the definition that should stick in your brain. It's the one that College Board likes. Certain populations, certain individuals within populations have different chances of surviving and reproducing based on their traits. That was number 6. Go. So those traits are a result of mutations. Mutations are simply random changes in DNA molecules. We really only get new versions of traits that can develop from mutations. Do humans have green hair naturally? No. Could humans have green hair someday? Maybe. But we need a mutation in DNA to occur first. Okay, so mutations happen naturally. They can be increased by things like radiation. And that's what's going to give us new versions of traits that can develop. Those traits then that help organisms survive and sometimes reproduce are called adaptations. Adaptations are heritable traits. What the heck? All right, I'm going to define it. I'm going to go back. Oh, you guys, you're being so patient. All right, so let's do this. An adaptation, this is number 8, is a heritable trait. So that's something that can be passed on genetically that give some organisms advantages over others in a population. Okay, so we did 1 through 8. We got through slide 7. I think I'm going to stop the video now because we're at 10 minutes and they're kind of long to upload. So this is part 1. Go to the next video to continue on. Go take a break. Go take a break.